Hi, welcome to a new installment from Keep Indiana Learning. We are going to be talking topics that are themed on Mount Rushmore. So if you think about Mount Rushmore, it is 4 iconic symbols of American history. Well, that can be translated into 4 iconic pieces of advice, your favorite foods. But of course, here at Keep Indiana Learning, we're about all things education and helping people do what they do best. So today we have a panel of our digital learning coaches that are going to join us, and we are going to share things about mentoring new teachers, because I know districts have a lot of new teachers. We want to keep those teachers with us. And so without further ado, I am going to bring in our panel for the day. We've got Tim Arnold from Richmond, Bo Gibson from Lagodi, Amy Stevens from South Henry, and Jonathan Winslow, who is with us from, Jonathan, I forget your district.
MSD of Steuben County up in Angola.
County. All right. Well, I'm going to take myself out and let you guys take over and talk to us about mentoring new teachers.
Hello, my name is Tim Arnold. I'm an e-learning specialist with the Richmond Community Schools and also a digital learning coach with Keep Indiana Learning. I have 26 years of classroom experience, and in the last 7, I've been an e-learning coach at Richmond. Bo, what about you?
I'm Bo Gibson. I'm a teacher of 10 years, teach at Lagodi Community Schools currently, Lagodi High School. Spent most of my time in smaller rural districts. I've taught at Perry Central High School as well. I do all things STEM, so I've done a ton of math, science. I've done engineering, done manufacturing. I've been anywhere from 7th grade pre-algebra to calculus to college credit engineering courses to just kind of 9 weeks, get your feet wet for junior high engineering courses. So I've been all over the place as far as subject matters that I've taught. But I've kind of seen the breadth of the curriculum and seen new teachers come, and unfortunately some of them go. So I don't know. I've kind of been through it all as far as the STEM world goes. Amy?
Hi there. I'm Amy Stevens. I'm a Project Lead the Way teacher for grades K through 5 for Tri-Elementary in the South Henry School Corporation. I'm also their technology integration specialist and have the pleasure of joining this crew among a few others as a digital learning coach for Keep Indiana Learning. I remember what it was like to be a new teacher and feel so much gratitude still, and are still connected with the pack, the mentor crew that literally raised me my first few years, because I do believe that mentoring new teachers lasts past that first year, right? So just really grateful to bring the elementary perspective to today's conversation. Jonathan?
Hello, I'm Jonathan Winslow. I'm at MSD of Steuben County. I'm an instructional coach for all of our elementary schools here, and then also serve as an assistant administrator in one of our buildings. In my role, I get to work with all of the new teachers in our district and their mentors, and we meet on a monthly basis, and we get to have lots of the conversations that we're going to be talking to you about today. So we'll start back with Tim, and he's got our first tip.
Okay, so we're thinking about the Mount Rushmore of mentoring new teachers. And as it has been mentioned, we are in a time we've never seen before, with teachers entering our schools from so many wide variety of experiences or former jobs, levels of expertise and training. And so the things we're going to try to provide today hopefully will help us hang on to a lot of those people. So my first one is meet them where they are. Find out where they are, where they're coming from, what their experiences are, what their backgrounds are, and then be there for them when they are available or when they are ready. So I'm talking about things like before school, after school. Let them know that you're available on weekends if that works with you. I'm an empty nester. My wife and I, our kids are out of the house, so that's not a problem for me. My rule of thumb is when you have an issue, when you have a problem, shoot me an email, get in touch with me. Even if I don't see it right then, and when I do, I'm going to answer it right away, because the problems that we have don't happen always between 8 and 3 o'clock. So be ready for them. Oftentimes, I feel like my best work is done before 8 and after 3, but I want to be there for them during the day as well. So I'm talking about things like TikTok. I've got a lot of young teachers that are getting content advice on TikTok. So I need to be on TikTok, or I need to know what's there so I can point them in that direction. Google Meets or Zooms, anything where I can share my screen and say, hey, here's what you're trying to do. Let's try this, or have you try it, and then we can talk about it. I also love things like lunch and learns. Maybe I can catch them for 5 minutes during lunch. I try to not do that unless they request it, because it's kind of golden time for teachers, and they want to have a conversation with other adults, and I want to honor that. But if they're down for it, I'm down for it. I also love things like appy hours, which I've set up before. Not happy hours, but appy hours. So we're going to take an hour after school, and we're going to look at one app, something that might make your life a little bit easier. So any of those things might work. And then probably the last thing on that list of meeting them where they are when they're ready are Loom videos. I have Loom living up on the top of my computer screen, and a lot of times I can shoot a quick video of exactly what they're asking for, show them how to do it, get it to them in seconds, and they're ready to go on with their day. So meet them where they are. Bo, what about you?
Awesome. I think I'm going to piggyback on that just a little bit. So Tim says meet them where they are. And that's great advice, obviously. But I think sometimes it's kind of hard to get a feel for where some of these new teachers are, especially because, like Tim said, they're coming in from all places. Some of them have experience in industry in the past. Some are coming fresh out of college, transition to teaching. We don't really know where they are and what their teaching style's like, what are they comfortable with, what they're not comfortable with. I think a great idea for supporting these new teachers is to ask your admin to get some coverage and co-teach a lesson with them, especially if you are a mentor-mentee relationship in the same subject area, same content area, which hopefully that is the case. And that way, to me, that feels like a lower stakes than saying, hey, I'm going to come in for an observation. It's, hey, let's work together. Let's put this lesson together. Let's teach it together. And then while you're in the room, you can observe and you can see kind of what this newcomer is comfortable with, maybe what they're not comfortable with, what they're really, really good at, and maybe what they need a little bit more work with. And once you kind of see that in, like I said, maybe a lower stakes environment than calling it an observation, and then we can take up some of Tim's tips there and really be able to meet with them and talk with them. And that's where we can meet them where they are. But I think, getting that co-taught lesson is a really great way just to kind of see the lay of the land. And like I said, see their strengths, see their weaknesses. Amy, what do you got for us?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I love that. That was extremely helpful for me. I was that teacher that was a transition to teaching a graduate. And so, when I came in, my mentor teacher just happened to be my grade level teaching partner. And there were so many things that went along with the job that they don't teach you that in school, right? And I had a condensed version of it. So asking your admin for that special time, I agree. And I'm going to carry on with that because it was so helpful for me. I mean, you guys, we all know the elementary world, and I want you to imagine kindergarten, right? So like here I am, first week on the job, and I'm like, I got it. And then there's like 5-year-olds, and I'm like, whoa, okay, everybody, like, just stay calm. But in the history of telling people to stay calm, no one's ever calm, right? So I got to spend time with my mentor teacher. And while I truly did feel that I was made for this, it was lovely to be able to sit back and watch someone at work, to celebrate each other, and then my principal walked me down the hall and I got to watch the music teacher facilitate transitions, how to get kids in the room and how to line them up out of the room. And then I got to watch a 5th grade teacher and how they did whole group, how they transitioned into small group. And then I got to watch, things like the lunch line. I mean, just little things that as a new teacher, it's on the job training. But one of the greatest gifts that I got in my district, and this was years ago, was this opportunity to be a part of a cohort. And Jonathan, you may be able to speak to some of this, where there was a high school teacher, a junior high teacher, an elementary teacher in my group. And we spent some time together throughout a year observing each other. And when I say observe, it's like what you were saying, Bo. It was very light. And I'll never forget, I made some amazing friends through this experience. And one of my dearest friends is a high school biology teacher, and he's sitting in my kindergarten room, and I'm doing a lesson, and here comes the glue sticks. And I go through step by step of how we use glue sticks. And his eyes are just like, oh my gosh. And afterward, he goes, I just thought you just asked kids to get glue sticks. I didn't know you had to take time to tell them how to take the cap off and twist it up and down and not to eat it and all this stuff. And so we were laughing, but those are the beautiful things that come out of observing each other, letting down, that guard, putting up that sign, open, come on in, and just creating that community where it's okay to say, hey, I have a question. Can you help me, Jonathan?
Thank you so much for that perspective, Amy. And mine kind of goes along with what you're saying. And it goes a little bit more specific in the fact that it's important for us as mentors to support creating priorities for teachers, because there's oftentimes a huge list of things that teachers want to work on. Like, they want to be better every single day. And it's important for us as mentors to help them kind of narrow down those options. Is it really like instruction that you want to focus on and get better in this year? Is it the management of your classroom? Is it that you want to make sure that you're building good relationships with your colleagues, with your parents, with all stakeholders? Or is it that you need help with work-life balance? I don't know about you, but that's been my goal for my whole life. And I still haven't gotten there yet. But we have to help them set those priorities, because if we just expect everything to get better all at once, that is not going to set them up for a successful situation. Once you've kind of narrowed that priority, that's when you can start to find those teachers for that new teacher to go observe. So if someone is really wanting to work on their management, look for those teachers that are top notch at management and find opportunities to get that teacher in that classroom. Tim, next one.
Okay, so number 2 is going to reflect a lot on what you guys have talked about, but for me, it's build relationships first. I think it speaks right to what Bo was talking about earlier. Many short, low-pressure check-ins. I wouldn't even call them walkthroughs, just nothing heavy at all, because I want them to get used to seeing me in the room and understand it's not evaluative at all. I'm just there to check in, take a look at what they're doing, see if I can offer any help. And even if there's not an opportunity to speak at that time because they're engaged in instruction, which is what you want to see, I can always leave a positive Post-it note on their desk for them to find afterwards, or on their podium afterwards. That's something I learned from an administrator that I had, that even though there may not have been a time for a great conversation while I was there, we don't need that. It's very light. I'm just checking in, I'm taking a look and seeing what I can offer, but I can leave you a note. Hey, here's something great that I saw going on while I was in your room, just to kind of get them through the day. The newest one of these that I'm looking forward to trying, but I've never done, is called a walk and talk PD. And that's where you literally take a walk. You say, hey, we've got 10 minutes of your prep. Let's go outside and take a walk.
I love that.
Just talk about whatever's on your mind related to teaching. I think I've got some people to take me up on this year, and I'm really interested in seeing I can push this into the dead of winter and see who will go outside for a nice, cold, chilly walk in Indiana in January or February. But we'll see. But it's like Bo said, it's all about building those relationships first.
Awesome. I'm glad you said that, because my very next thing was kind of on that relationship track. So like I said in my intro, I'm from a couple of small rural districts. That's been my 2 teaching posts so far. And I know that it can kind of it gets to feel a little cliquish sometimes in those smaller rural districts, especially if you're a teacher that's maybe moving in, maybe you didn't grow up in the area and you're kind of a move-in. So one of my tips that I was thinking about is helping those teachers kind of integrate themselves into the social circles that already exist there. Maybe encourage them to join your fantasy football league, because I know, football starts up in the fall. That's when the new school year starts. It's a great time to get those newcomers into your social circles and get them, make them feel welcome. Obviously, I'm a football guy, so that's the first thing I think about. But whatever the social thing is, it might be a school workout group. I know our school has a group of teachers that work out together. Maybe invite them to a workout or go on a run or go work out in the gym or something like that, and make them feel integrated, make them feel welcome. The saying, you don't quit a job, you quit people. So get them to where they're very comfortable, and that way, not only does that help with the social aspect, but of course, now they're not going to be so worried about maybe coming to somebody and asking for help, saying, "Hey, I really feel like I'm struggling in this aspect of my teaching, maybe classroom management or maybe integrating technology." And if they've got that social circle to lean on, it's not as intimidating to go and ask for some help or ask for maybe some tips and tricks. Amy, what's
I
next?
love that. I love that. Along the theme of building relationships, something that's been brought to my attention that I've been able to mentor new teachers with, which absolutely fills my bucket, is modeling how to build relationships with students. That is something that is a work in progress. And I learned, I feel like, from some of the best. And when you feel like you pull into the parking lot and you're like, man, there's a lot I got to do today, but I love being with these kids. To be able to model that for our new teachers, I feel like it should help them connect with their why. Just really, showing them the different ways, like that student teacher engagement, love for learning, relationship can grow and build. If you've got a student that loves specific things, maybe some resources that you can help that new teacher with so that they can provide, those connections with that student. If there's a student that's struggling, socially or emotionally, showing ways that maybe like, grade level teams can have lunch together, or that there's, just different ways of looping in that village of teachers that show up every day for kids. So, modeling when you're teaching whole group, when you're teaching small group, how to make those connections with kids. One of my things is I love to tell stories when I'm teaching. And so a lot of the new teachers that'll come and, watch me, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like, why did you use dogs for your subtraction lesson? Is it because you love them?" And I was like, "No, it's because I got to know the kids during our community circle. And, I know that they all have a dog at home. So if I start teaching subtraction and talking about how, my black lab jumped up on the counter and ate a piece of pizza, how many are left, then they're going to connect with that." And I think it really helps connect with that why, along with that teaching philosophy. And so just really making sure that those little pieces of paper that we wrote out in school, that they get tucked away to a safe place, not just any file, but maybe a smile file. I don't know, Jonathan, what do you think?
Love it. I love that idea. Thank you so much. I also think it's important as a mentor to express your weaknesses, because I think a lot of times teachers think that as a mentor, they have it all together. And I think they need to see that that's not always true. Like, as teachers that have been around for 20 years in the classroom, they all have weaknesses. And I think it's important to share those and be real and human with them, because teachers come in new feeling defeated because they might not have had the same experience as their mentor. They probably haven't. And if they haven't had that experience, they feel like they are behind the 8 ball. And I think it's important to share that process of getting better. And with sharing that weakness, having that mentor should share how they got better over time, so that they can then kind of talk through the process of what happens to begin to get better in the profession.
That's awesome. I love that you said that, the thing about being open and honest about your own experiences, because one of the things I often say to people that I'm working with is that it took me absolutely 3 full years of doing this full time before I felt like I even started to have the grasp of thinking, okay, I've got enough of this down that I think I'm going to survive. So don't think 3 months in you're going to have a handle on this, because you're just not. Teaching, it's not brain surgery. It's 1,000 times harder, right? So you just got to understand that going in. All right. So my third item is that gradual move with your mentee from survive to thrive, and don't really push that, because survival is what it's going to be for a while. Just as I said, it took me, I think, 3 years. And that was in a home with a wife who was also teaching. So I had somebody there every night that I could talk about this stuff with. Not everybody you're working with has that experience at home. So in terms of resources that you put in front of them, in terms of the help, I'm going to say help that you offer them, don't overwhelm these folks in these first few months. I'm a classic over planner, and if I didn't stop myself, I would say, hey, here's 45 great ideas for the first week of school. How about we just do one? All right. So that's really on me as the mentor, but really allowing them to survive and then working towards thriving. And the majority of that is me listening. I've got to listen, and I've got to listen a lot. And I've got to make sure that I sense when too much is too much, and I pull back a little bit and say, okay, it'll be there when we're ready. And if you're not ready now, that's fine. Bo, what about you?
Tim, I'm still waiting on my survive time or my thrive time. I think I'm still in survival mode. Maybe that comes after the second decade. I don't know. But anyway, so let's see. Item number 3 for me. Well, let's talk about a little maybe survive versus thrive. So I'm a math guy. That's kind of my big time thing. I dabble in science and engineering, but I'm a big time math guy. So one of my tips and tricks is I'm gonna kind of focus in on my math brethren here. Is give some real world activities, projects, like hands-on learning projects. If you're a mentor mentee in the math field, give them some projects that you know, or at least one project that you know. And I think it's important to share with them that you're not going to have, let's say you teach 8 chapters in a year, you're not going to have 8 hands-on projects on year 1 that you can work with your kids. Maybe you can have 1 or 2. Maybe I give you 1, and then for semester 1, you work on 1 for semester 2, and there's 2 out of the 8 chapters you've already got a hands-on project. And then next year we can work on 2 different ones. And then the next year in 4 years' time, you're going to have all 8 chapters. They're going to have a hands-on project, activity, something that kids can get their hands dirty with, where you don't have to spend hours and hours and hours after school, before school, planning these things out. And I know in the math world, I'm sure it's every subject, but I know math, so that's what I'm going to speak to. You can have this activity planned out, and if you've never worked it before, it can go really, really well, or it can go really, really poorly. It can go off the rails really quick. So that's why I think it's important, if you're going to mentor or mentee with a new coming teacher, to have one that you've already worked out. You know it works. You know the kids like it. Give that to them. Go over it with them. If you can work it with your admin to co-teach it with them, that's great. And that way, like I said, and then we could talk about realistic expectations for getting these hands-on projects. I think one of the number one mistakes we see is just people want to go all in all the time. And, you just don't have the time and the resources on year 1, year 2, year 3 to really do that. So, Amy, what's your third item for us?
Oh, I love it. Embrace failure. I mean, I do this with students on the daily with my Project Lead the Way curriculum, with my STEM curriculum. And I found that it's almost more difficult with grownups than it is with children. And so it's, it really is a thing. And one of the best things that one of my mentors did for me is she included me in the planning. We were co-planning, obviously she took the lead. Bo, I love that you just said that, to have a project, a plan that you as the mentor already, have done, have worked through. But what my mentor did with me is she let me include my voice, even when her years of experience knew it was not going to go well. And she carried out my plan in her room. I carried out my plan in my room. And afterwards we opened up the little room, the door that, joins our rooms. And she goes, how did that go for you? And I was like, ugh. She goes, yeah, let's talk through that. What do you think? What could we do different? And so we started circling things. So embracing that failure, because, I'm here to tell you, Pinterest, TikTok, it looks fabulous on screen. It can very well be livable, but 9 times out of 10, it's probably not real life. And so, just because you were hired to be a teacher does not mean you were hired to be an expert. And so embrace failure and just be okay with saying oh boy, okay, so I need to revisit that. Or have you done this before? Can you help walk me through? Because I think I know what's going to happen, but I'm not real sure.
I love that. I always call that failing forward. Like, we failed. Now, what are we going to do moving forward? And we have those conversations all the time. Thanks, Amy. My third topic is really just about sharing just in time information. Like, there's so many things that we need to share with our new teachers, and it can be extremely overwhelming if we just go in and bombard them with all this information. And so in my district, when we have those monthly meetings, we really try to be intentional about what the topic is of that meeting, and is it something that is close to when that time of the year is coming up. So like at the beginning of the year, we're at the elementary level and middle school level, and a little bit at the high school, but not as much. We're giving a lot of those beginning of the year assessments to really know where our students are. And so August, September, we're talking all about those NWA assessments, all of those different assessments we're giving to kids, and then talking through the data that comes out of that. And then in October, we usually have a meeting and it's all about parent-teacher conferences. So teachers can kind of start to get their head around that, because we know our undergrad experiences don't always prepare us for those parent-teacher conferences. Then in the January time period, we usually have our middle of the year assessments done. We can kind of talk about, are kids growing the way we expected them to grow or not? And then as the year goes on, we just really try to be intentional about sharing information when it's needed and not too early or too late.
I love that. Unpacking those acronyms too, right, Jonathan?
Yes.
Like if you start telling new teachers, we're going to NWEA, we're going to DIBBLE, and then we're going to have PT conferences, they're like, what language are you speaking?
Exactly.
Okay, so my fourth and final one here for Mount Rushmore, and this is the lightest one of them all, but this is one I got directly from Jerry Brooks. I got to see him speak a couple times this summer at conferences I was presenting at, and I thought, why not try this? So the tip is make a Google form or just ask them or give them a sheet of paper, find out their favorite salty and sweet snack, salty or sweet, and their favorite drink. And every 6 weeks or so, make sure there's a surprise in their mailbox or on their desk. No agenda, just an opportunity for them to ask questions, an opportunity to say, hey, I see you're in there fighting the good fight. Here's something to get you through the day. Could it cost me a little bit? Sure. But you know what? We all have these amazing community partners out there who, if you ask, would say, oh, absolutely. What do you need? How much do you need? And there's a giant box of it at your door within a couple of days. So just a little reward, a little thing to get through the day that says, hey, I'm thinking about you. I know you're fighting the good fight, and I'm here whenever you need me. What about you, Bo?
All right, final one. Stop by your new teacher's door about 4 or 4:30 and tell them to go home. So reasonable working hours, I think, is a really important conversation to have, because we all know, you could just work yourself to death teaching. I'm year 10, and I could work till 10 o'clock every night if I wanted to, right? You've got to set reasonable boundaries for your work, and you got to just have a plan for, all right, maybe I'll get here at 7, work a little before, I'm going to work till 4:30, and then I'm done for the day. The rest of the time is mine, my family's. And I think, we have obviously problems with high rates of burnouts for new coming teachers. And I think a lot of it boils down to, they just care so much. They just want to keep working. And it's just not a sustainable effort. And so, just stop by the room and tell them you need to go home and you need to get something to eat and be with your family, and we'll hit it tomorrow. Amy, what do you think?
I love that, definitely. And that brings my fourth tip, is to, as a mentor, create a schedule for either yourself or a schedule that you share with your mentee as just regular check-ins. And, it could be 5 minutes, whatever. And then as a mentor, I'm not sure if, maybe there's a stipend involved, or if there's a PGP, incentive involved to being a mentor. But one of the best things that I did is I created a Google form for myself. And every time I met with my mentor or my mentee, formally, I tracked it. And my mentee did the same thing on his or her end. And so we have that documentation in the moment continuing to accrue. So then at the end of the school year, we just gave it to our principal, and, it was able to be validated very quickly. So it's a little business side of it, but it's just a good to know tip. And, having those check-ins. And I love that, Tim, about, showering them with some joy every so often, and Bo, my principal, is notorious for getting on the loudspeaker, and she's like, it's 4:30. I see cars in the parking lot. She's like, it'll be here tomorrow. No, you go home and come back tomorrow, okay?
Yep, that's
Jonathan,
right.
what about you?
I love the idea of documenting your conversations, because what a great opportunity for you and your mentee to have reflections over the year. I mean, as you document the conversations you're having, hopefully you can kind of walk away from that conversation and be like, yeah, we talked about this a couple months ago. I'm wondering if I can check up on this now. So just a great tip. I love that tip. And that kind of leads me to my last tip, which is helping your mentee get connected. And so when you're having those conversations, think about how you can connect them to people that are like them, people that are teaching the same thing, whether that be digitally on social media. Maybe there's somebody locally in the district that you can connect them with, or if you know someone throughout the state or nationally that's doing the same types of things that they are, find ways to get them connected, because we know that this can be a really isolating profession, and we want to make sure that our teachers feel supported and are not working in those silos.
That's awesome.
Awesome stuff.
Wow, 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 you guys. That was some great, great information and advice for mentoring new teachers. So we so appreciate Tim and Bo and Amy and Jonathan lending their expertise and their thoughts. And I hope that this brings some type of advice that can be helpful for those of you who are responsible for mentoring new teachers in this year. And we're thinking about making this Mount Rushmore thing a frequent or a repeated event. So look for the next topic and see. We'll try to see what can drop in October. But thanks for watching. And don't forget to, if you don't already, follow, explore keepindianalearning.org. And then you can also follow Keep Indiana Learning on Twitter. So thanks again for joining in, and we will catch you next time.